Hey, this is Liz Bentley from Liz Bentley Associates, and we're here today to do a Client Spotlight series. We're inviting our clients who work all over the country to come in and talk about what is their secret sauce, what makes them special, and what makes them really good at what they do. So I'm really excited because today we have Jonathan Spears here from Scenic, Sotheby's International Realty in Northwest Florida. And I'm so excited to have you here today, Jonathan.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Liz.
So tell us a little bit about your business. We are living in such an interesting time. There's so much change and evolution, and it's really harder than ever to stay relevant.
Right.
So tell me, I know you're doing incredible, so tell me a little bit about your business and what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So I got licensed when I was 18 years old.
Amazing.
And I've been in the business for just over 9 years. I run a team of 6, so a very small boutique team. We've accomplished just about $500 million in sales in the last 5 years.
Incredible.
So we've been averaging over $100 million a year in sales and have consistently been ranked on the Real Trends 1000 list by sales volume as one of the youngest agents in the business.
That's unbelievable. About how many transactions a year is that?
Around 100. So we average just over $1 million in sales price. So it requires quite a bit of volume in order to get that achievement.
That is unbelievable and quite a bit of energy. So tell me, how do you do it?
Listen, if I didn't love it, I wouldn't be here. I absolutely love it. So I eat, sleep, and breathe service and serving my clients. And so I've really tried to build pillars in our business that set us apart. We lead the market by over 30%. And the next closest competitor can't take on that same market share that we have because of the way that we implement not only our business through Sotheby's International Realty, but also our local touch.
So give us your pillars. What are your 3 big pillars?
Proactivity, number 1.
Excellent.
Education and communication.
So tell me about proactivity. What does that mean to you?
So proactivity is required when there's a lack of activity. And it's the anecdote for a reactive mindset. We're always so reactive. We want to answer the phone call. We want to answer the email immediately. And, it's not really the way that we get things done. Busyness is not productive.
Right.
And so when we look at our business and our business model and how we best serve our clients, we have got to be proactive. We've got to be the ones making the phone calls, setting the appointments, setting the schedule, and ultimately leading the client and leading the market. That's the only way that we're able to be successful.
Jonathan, I love that you're saying this because we try to message to agents all the time. You have to get proactive instead of reactive. It is such a reactive business. And then agents start to fall apart when nothing's happening. When it gets quiet, they panic because they've been so used to reacting to things, they don't know how to be proactive and get it done. That's fantastic. Do you feel like you've done that your whole business, or did you learn to do that?
I definitely had to learn to do that. I think that silence that you referenced earlier is something that every salesperson can relate to, and it's really a reminder that when we look at our daily business, that we may be forgetting steps, and those steps include proactive calling, prospecting, not only prospecting with clients, but other agents. And so making sure that you're staying ahead of the game and communicating, and all of these items lead towards success. And if you miss just one in that chain, you may miss out on business. And ultimately, that silence is telling you, hey, you missed something.
Right. And tell me about how you're proactive with agents. Why are the agents so important to you in that proactivity mindset?
Well, we have a fiduciary to our buyers and sellers. And so we look at protecting them first and foremost, but we can't do that fully if we don't have open channels of communication with other agents. And so, Liz, if you and I were doing a deal and I felt like either party was being standoffish as opposed to having some transparency and a level of commitment to work together, I may not get the deal done. And so if I can't trust you and feel good about working with you, I may never even bring a buyer to your listing in the first place.
Right.
And so I think that agents in the market absolutely look at who is listing the properties, what kind of compensation they're offered. They're looking at all these things as they start sending them out to buyers, especially when inventory is limited.
Yeah, it's really a game changer.
It's
and
a complete game
we
changer.
hear this from our top clients too, that their relationships with the other agents in their area is absolutely critical to their success. But so many agents get that wrong and see each other as competition instead of seeing each other as collaborators.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, definitely.
Really great. That's a great point. Thank you. So let's move on to number 2. How about talking about education? Tell me about why education is a pillar for you.
So education's a pillar, especially when you serve sellers and trying to educate them not only on a changing market, but different facets of the market. So we've got quite a few different micro markets in our area. You can't just look at it from a macro perspective, and a one-size-fits-all does not work, especially in luxury real estate.
Right.
So we've got to know not only who's coming in and out of the market, but we have to know the stories of these buyers and sellers. Their profiles are important. Why did Mr. Seller sell his property for 20% under market, or at least what the market feels like? And why did that buyer spend that price point on that home? Those stories are important. And in a day where sellers and buyers can be educated online through different internet sites, whether it's Zillow or StreetEasy or Trulia or Realtor.com, what they don't get are the stories. And our value is to be an advisor. And so we bridge that gap through education.
Jonathan, tell me more about being an advisor. I think that's fantastic, and it's what all of your clients, I'm sure, need. And what I find most interesting about it is that you've been doing this since you were 18. You're now 27.
Yeah.
You must be advising people who are many decades older than you in various circumstances. How do you manage that?
I think it's a shift in mindset. So as a salesperson, we always think sales, 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 but we don't always attach the why to the what. And so in that outcome, we've got to make sure we're leading our customer, and our customers in turn are looking for us to lead. If I take on a C-level executive with a high D personality who I have to get their home sold within a short amount of time, if I don't stay in front of that customer, what's going to happen is they start leading me. And as soon as your customer leads you, you lose your ability to serve them. You can't help them. And if I don't stay out in front of things, they get lost.
That's right. That's fantastic. Obviously, being an advisor is a really critical role.
Right.
What do you think most agents struggle with? Why do they struggle with that so much? Because I feel so many agents are afraid of advising, especially a high D dominant type personality, because they're afraid of losing that client.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's fear. And so it's fear of maybe having a conversation, or fear of a certain personality trait. And so it's one of those things where we have to commit ourselves up front that the only way to serve this client is to make sure that they hear the truth and that there's transparency. And it's not that we're not willing to be objective, because that's not what I'm saying at all. It's that we have to make sure we've got the trust of our client, that when we are objective, that they look to us for the answer and look at us for that leadership.
And what do you do when you've got to tell them something really tough? You've got to tell them the truth that's going to be hard for them to hear. How do you get over that fear and get into that and give them that objectivity or whatever it is you have to deliver?
I don't know that you ever get over that fear, Liz. You always have butterflies, but I'll tell you what, swallowing that frog first thing and making sure that you talk to that client sooner rather than later,
I love
which
that.
ties into our next pillar, which is communication. Communication is absolutely key, and so we have to make sure that how we communicate, when we communicate, is all curated, just like every other part of our business.
And have you ever lost a client giving this kind of tough truth?
Absolutely.
And what happened?
Usually the client comes back.
Really?
Yeah, that time frame is so difficult, because maybe you're delivering the message in a vulnerable state, or maybe it's something that they just didn't want to hear and they're not ready to accept it.
Right.
But as long as you know that you're being honest, which comes from conviction, then everything works itself out. So if I'm convicted, Liz, that you're overpriced, but you're not ready to sell, it's not really the right time to sell, and that motivation isn't there, and the market's not absorbing the property at the price point that you expect, we have to make a change. And if that change is taking off the market or trying a different direction, at least I know in my convictions that I've remained authentic.
So Jonathan, obviously you have to tell these clients these really hard truths, and it doesn't always go well. They blame you, they get angry, but the key that you say is staying authentic. Staying authentic to yourself, staying authentic to them, and doing what you believe is right. It's really critical. So in this third pillar of communication, tell me what else is really important.
So being a proactive advisor, urgency is critical. We have to create urgency not only for our sellers, because the sellers don't want to sit on property. It doesn't serve them or benefit them for their property to remain stale in the market. So not only does the seller need a price according to market that would bring a buyer out in an urgent manner, but we also have to make sure that buyers know that the product's not waiting on them to come and pick it up. We've got to be in front of it and make sure that they have that feeling of urgency. And it's not just urgency that that they're going to miss a deal or miss an opportunity. It's also the urgency that they may miss an experience. And so when we think about families and why they come down to the beach or why they would inhabit a property in general, it's not just for shelter at this point. They're looking for experiences. And so when we sell lifestyle, we've got to create an urgency about that lifestyle. You need this lifestyle now. Liz, you need to be at the beach right now. That glow on your skin is really going to compliment you in your next meeting.
I need it.
So whatever angle that looks like, whatever that urgency piece is, and whatever that narrative looks like, we try to tailor fit it and curate it for the property and for the profile of buyer and seller.
That's fantastic. And what I love about what you're saying is that you create the urgency.
Yeah.
So many people wait for the urgency to happen around them. You have to create it, and especially in a market where many people are buying a second home.
Exactly.
And they might not necessarily need this. So you've got to make them believe, like you said, that they do.
Right.
Tell me what else is important in the pillar of communication.
I think in this day and age, as technology changes and people interact differently, whether it's through social media or other forms of online networking, LinkedIn, for example, has become huge, especially with corporate offices that don't allow access to Facebook and Instagram. We've got to be so diverse in how we touch base with our clients and how we're delivering messages, whether it's imagery or it's text messaging. I can tell you a great story, Liz. I do a lot of deals by Instagram, and I not only prospect on Instagram, which allows me to immediately communicate with a large follower base, but I also am able to get back to people on Instagram Messenger in a way that isn't as common on text message.
Interesting. So, Jonathan, one of the things that we certainly have seen in our business is we've become such a visual economy.
Right.
You know, people want to look at things. They want to see pictures. They want to see video. They want to watch stuff. Tell me, how do you communicate visually with your clients, and what have you seen in this?
Well, Liz, talk about creating urgency. People want things and they want it now.
Right.
And in the day and age of Instagram and Facebook and social media outlets, we have to learn to be diverse in how we communicate with people. We're not communicating with them in just one platform. The initial inception of communication may start through a photo like on social media or through just a little double tap and a heart on Instagram. And so we really have to think hard about how we're entering into the minds of our customers and how we're presenting content. What I love is the ability to talk to all of my customers at once or really create a following around a certain brand or a certain property. And I've been able to accomplish that through Instagram.
That's
so
great.
Instagram's been a tool where we're able to leverage content immediately. And you mentioned visuals. I think people respond more urgently to a visual presentation that they've never seen before.
And do you find that this works across all generations? Like, are you getting the older population with this as much as your population?
It goes back to diversity of channels. So we see different generations on Facebook than we do on Instagram, and then even more so on Snapchat. And so one thing that we look for is not only getting in front of our customers, but our customers' children are also following us. So when we talk about selling multi-generational properties, my buyer profile may be a patriarch of a family, but their grandson may have his phone up on my Instagram story showing him the house I just walked through, and him get excited and pick up the old-fashioned telephone and call.
That is fantastic.
But
I
regardless of how they're communicating, we're present, and we're making sure that we're taking over that share of voice in their channels of communication.
Jonathan, thank you so much for coming today. We really appreciate you coming and sharing your 3 pillars of success: proactivity, education, and communication.
Liz, thank you for having me. Those 3 pillars have been absolutely pivotal to my success, and I'm just grateful to get to share them with everybody.
Thanks. Awesome.